The movie begins with military officers celebrating their recent win against Vietnam. Colonel Kim Jin-pyong, who had successfully secured an island from the Vietnamese, is asked to grab a drink by his superior to celebrate. At first, Jin-pyong hesitates and tells the general that he's stopped drinking alcohol, but when he mocks him, he goes ahead and drinks. Sometime later, while everyone's still celebrating inside, Jin-pyong goes outside and throws up. Then he takes out a cigarette and lights it up. Just then, two officers come outside, and Jin-pyong hides from them, not wanting to talk to anyone. The officers start talking, and one of them mentions that he's tired of hearing the general praising Jin-pyong all the time, just because he's his son-in-law. But before the conversation could expand further, someone calls the two of them back inside. The next morning, Jin-pyong meets Captain Kyung Woo-jin, who's being transferred to their military camp. As he's going through his paperwork, Jin-pyong discovers that Captain Kyung had served in Vietnam with him. He also notices his wife's name mentioned at the bottom of the page. He finds her name strange and asks Kyung about it, who tells him that his wife is Chinese. This somehow intrigues Jin-pyong. Later that night, Jin-pyong returns home, and his wife prepares dinner for him while telling him that he needs to show up at the hospital and take pictures with the nurses. When they sit down for dinner, she tells him that she had met Captain Kyung's wife and is happy that they're also a childless couple like themselves. Then Jin-pyong notices red circles on the calendar and asks his wife about them. She tells him that those are the days when she'll be ovulating. That night, the couple makes full use of that calendar date and starts holding hands. After holding hands, Jin-pyong decides to go out for a walk. He hears some birds chirping and decides to check them out. When he reaches them, he finds several cages lined up with birds in them. He blows cigarette smoke on one of the birds, but all of a sudden a woman shows up behind him and tells him that the birds don't like that. He figures out that the woman is Captain Kyung's wife and immediately apologizes to her. She asks him if he hates birds, but he apologizes and assures her that he didn't mean to harm him. The next day, Jin-pyong visits the military doctor. He tells the doctor that he's been hallucinating and has been experiencing many panic attacks due to his time at war. The doctor tells him that his hallucinations are a sign of PTSD and tells him that he needs proper treatment for it. Before he leaves, the doctor hands him his medication and tells him not to drink alcohol. Jin-pyong then asks the doctor if he has told anyone about his condition, to which the doctor replies and says that he hasn't. Later, he heads to the hospital, where his wife is waiting for him. He takes pictures with all the nurses, including Captain Kyung's wife, Jung Ga-hyun. After the photo shoot, he joins the nurses inside the hospital while they take care of sick officers. Meanwhile, his wife introduces herself to Ga-hyun and asks her why she doesn't have children yet. Although uncomfortable, Ga-hyun tells her that she somehow hasn't been able to get pregnant with her husband. Just then, an injured officer calls out to Jin-pyong's wife and asks her for help. She helps him sit up, but just then Ga-hyun notices a blade in his hand. So she quickly pushes Jin-pyong's wife out of the way and ends up being a hostage of an insane soldier. He holds the blade to her neck and begins screaming at everyone, calling them his enemies. Jin-pyong, who has been watching everything, rushes to help her. He confronts the mentally deranged officer and tells him to let her go. However, the officer keeps screaming at him to send him back to Korea. Jin-pyong, who knows that the officer is suffering from PTSD, tells him he's in Korea. But when the officer still refuses to let her go, he pulls out his gun and points it at him. Seeing the gun, a frightened Ga-hyun asks him to put it down. He puts the gun on the ground and assures the officer that he'll help him get back to Korea. However, once he lets her go, the officer jumps for the gun. When Jin-pyong tries to snatch the gun from him, he accidentally fires it, and a bullet hits Ga-hyun in her shoulder. Jin-pyong quickly knocks the officer out and goes to Ga-hyun, calling for a doctor. However, she's not too concerned with her wound and starts asking about her lost earring instead. It's gotta be some nice earrings. At the military camp, Jin-pyong hears a commotion from a room and decides to check it out. He finds Captain Kyung beating up the officer suffering from PTSD. Jin-pyong puts a stop to that and tells him that the officer was hallucinating and couldn't control himself. After stopping him, Jin-pyong and Kyung go outside for a smoke. During then, Jin-pyong asks Kyung if he can visit his wife to apologize for putting her in harm's way. When he agrees, Jin-pyong heads to Ga-hyun's hospital room. He gives her flowers and then asks her how she's doing. However, she tells him that the flowers are gonna die if they were to leave him out, So he goes to the hospital administration and asks for a vase. He then carefully cuts up the flowers and puts them in that vase before going back to her room. He also surprises her by returning her earring back. She tries to put it back on, but because of her injured arm, she's unable to. She then asks him for help and he puts it on for her. When he's doing so, she tells him that she was very impressed by his bravery that day. Later that day, Jin Pyong returns to work. There, an officer informs him that the owner of a music studio that he loves to visit was arrested by the military police. Because he knew the owner personally, Jin Pyong joined the interrogation. He finds out that the owner was guilty of dancing with the officers' wives on Monday mornings. Now that's one specific charge. Jin Pyong assures the interrogation officer that his friend will not misbehave anymore and requests for him to let him go. After being released, the two go for a drink, and a curious Jin Pyong asks his friend why he would dance with the wives on Mondays only. He tells him lonely housewives would come to him on Mondays because Mondays are a fresh start for them to cheat. Bro has ultimate riz. The next day, Jin Pyong and his wife go for a picnic with Kyung and his wife. But when Jin Pyong and Ga Hyun are left alone, she tells him that she can't stop thinking about him since his visit the other day. He also confesses that he thinks about her all day long. Smells like a simp. Things get a little awkward, but Ga Hyun diverts that awkwardness and asks him about the symbols on his lighter. She tells him it's beautiful, so Jin Pyong takes it and shoves it into her bag. In the following days, Ga Hyun and Jin Pyong can be seen sharing intense looks with each other. One night, the military hosts a party for all the officers and their families. Ga Hyun shows up wearing a backless dress and catches the attention of a high-ranking officer. He asks her to dance with him, but although she's uncomfortable with this request, her husband pushes her to dance as he wants to make his boss happy. As they start dancing, Jin Pyong notices his boss trying to touch her bare back. Unable to do anything, he heads into the bathroom. After Ga Hyun manages to get out of the old general's grip, she goes to find Jin Pyong. He apologizes for not being able to save her, but she tells him that she's grateful for him. Suddenly, Jin Pyong lands one on her, and the two share a passionate moment until someone knocks on the locked restroom door. Scared that they'll be caught, she leaves. The next day, the wives gather together for tea with Ga Hyun present. They start talking about Ga Hyun's history, where her family fled to the mountains during the war, and after her father passed away, her mother abandoned her. She was then taken in by Captain Kyung's mother, who pushed for her and her son to get married. One night, Captain Kyung and Jin Pyong have dinner together with their wives. While Kyung and Jin Pyong's wife are busy obsessing over coffee, Jin Pyong writes a note for Ga Hyun, telling her that he wants to see her alone and passes it to her. She writes back and tells him to meet her at the cathedral at noon the next day. So the next afternoon, he heads to meet her outside the cathedral. Ga Hyun gets into his car and he drives her to a forest so that they're hidden from view, where they get to hold hands. After that carnal sin, Jin Pyong drops her off, and in the following days he finds himself constantly thinking about her. Unable to spend more time with his mistress, Jin Pyong comes up with a plan to send his wife and her husband away. The next day, Kyung informs his wife that he's been selected to translate for an English convoy and has to leave for a couple of days. After Kyung leaves, Jin Pyong goes to find Ga Hyun at night. However, she refuses to let him in and tells him he shouldn't have sent her husband away. After getting rejected, he goes to the music studio and starts drinking with his friend. He confesses that he's sleeping with Kyung's wife, and his friend tells him not to continue with his affair. That's not the advice I was expecting from the Riz King. Not listening to his friend's advice, Jin Pyong goes to find Ga Hyun again and brings her some soup. Ga Hyun finally lets him in, and they start telling each other that their affair has to stop. However, they somehow end up ignoring that and spend the night Netflixing and chilling. The two of them spend the next few days together in bliss while their spouses are away. However, one day, Jin Pyong receives a call from one of his men who tell him that everyone has been looking for Ga Hyun. He says that her mother had gotten into an accident and is in the hospital. Jin Pyong drives Ga Hyun to the hospital, where they find both her mother and mother-in-law in the room. Her mother-in-law, with a supernatural sixth sense, immediately recognizes that Ga Hyun is in love with Jin Pyong. She encourages her to go after him since she had married her off to her son, who she knew wasn't right for her. However, when she goes to the truck where Jin Pyong's waiting for her, she tells him that their affair is not right and that she's breaking up with him. This doesn't sit well with him, and one night he asks a friend of his to set Captain Kyung up and frame him for smuggling drugs. Damn, bro's gone full mental simp here. Kyung's mother confronts and scolds her son about his crime, but he promises her that he's being set up. She soon figures out that Jin Pyong had set up her son and tells Ga Hyun to fix it. She confronts Jin Pyong about it, and he agrees to help her husband. The following night, Jin Pyong gets a surprise from his wife and friends that he's been promoted to general. During the surprise dinner party, his wife also announces that she's pregnant too. This news saddens Jin Pyong, and he starts drinking himself drunk the entire night. When he sees Ga Hyun heading outside, he follows her and asks her why she doesn't want to be with him. But his mistress rejects him once again and heads back inside the house. In his drunk state, he confronts her once again in front of everyone and starts screaming for her to take him back. He also reveals that affair to everyone present. Captain Kyung then tries to stop him, but Jin Pyong ends up knocking him out. All the men present then hold him down, and Ga Hyun quickly leaves. Later, his father-in-law confronts him about the affair and decides to send him away overseas so he can reflect on what he's done. Before Jin Pyong leaves, he decides to talk to Ga Hyun one more time. He apologizes and tells her that he's leaving for Vietnam and wants her to come along with him. But when she rejects him yet again, he pulls out a gun and shoots himself in the chest. But thankfully, he manages to survive and the scene fades. 2 years later, an officer goes to find Ga Hyun and hands her a photograph of her and Jin Pyong. He tells her that Jin Pyong had passed away in a battle when he was trying to save some soldiers in the mountains. Ga Hyun weeps, and when she flips the photo, she sees the words, "My love." Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.